Then, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal looking into sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will resume on the 5th of May. Now, early on, Legal Secretary Andiswa Mengo accused Mbenenge of lying, saying he's trying to cover up for an instance in which he exposed his private parts to her. Mengo recounted how Mbenenge allegedly summoned her into his chambers, questioning her about the clothing she was wearing. Newzroom Afrika's Veronica Mahwadi sat through all that exchange and joins us live now from Rosebank. Veronica, it's been an interesting week overall, really, when one considers then Andiswa Mengo's testimony that has been put forward, how we've swung one way and the other when it comes to the storylines and how exactly the story has flowed. Don't you just give us the latest with regards to today's proceedings?
Well, certainly, Arabile, it's been a grueling 10 days for the tribunal, but not just for themselves, of course. Andiswa Mengo, the legal secretary that's come forward with the sexual harassment accusations leveled, of course, against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. We've heard details and exchanges of how Mengo says that she was inundated with questions and rather explicit images and text that was sent to her unwanted. And while, of course, we've heard from Mbenenge's legal team for the past 10 days as well, who have, of course, denied that these, messages and these sexual gestures were unwanted, saying that it was consensual, and that he's also denied sending some of those explicit images. But before we just get into the details of how really the end and the wrap of this tribunal took place, I am joined by Chriscy Blouws, who is the attorney for the Women's Legal Centre, part of the legal team of Andiswa Mengo. And it's been, as I've mentioned, a tough 10 days, I think, just as Arabile as well mentioned, going back and forth. But as a team, just your reaction on this specific week, specifically the cross-examination that took place of your client.
So I think, as you rightly said, not only the past week, but the past 10 days have been extremely difficult for our client. She's taken a brave step to come forward with a very difficult and complex complaint. It is procedures, it's legal procedures where, the leading in evidence happens and cross-examination happens, as it does in every case. But I think, it was also even difficult for us as her legal team, and the ways in which we could support her and not during the past week because of cross-examination and obviously the rules around it. So I think this week was a very difficult week for her. But I think that this complaint illustrates, like all other sexual harassment complaints, the difficulty that women go through when having to come forward with this complaint. And also, the difficulty that it may put to other women who wish to come forward with similar complaints, and why many women choose not to go through, this process and be subjected to all of these processes.
Yeah. And without, of course, talking and delving too much into the case, we know that during this week, the cross-examination there coming from Advocate Moses Kakana was in efforts to discredit Mengo as a witness. But some of the tactics that were used were spoken about. I think perhaps maybe if you could speak to us, as you've mentioned, that it does bring into the fore the difficulties of trying to prove a sexual harassment case. Just talk to us a little bit as an attorney for the Women's Legal Centre. How often do we find similarities in cases like this?
So actually, the reality is that every claim is so different to the next. No one claim is the same. No one claim looks the same. And no one survivor or complainant looks the same. That's the complexity of sexual harassment matters of violence against women, is that they all differ. And so, the approach and the complexities and the nuances of every woman's experience is so different. Yes, I think the nation has watched on the past 2 weeks this specific case, but there are so many other women who go through similar, same type of experiences in their workplaces, not only in the legal profession, but in all sectors of work across the country. And I think for us as an organization and the Women's Legal Centre and our support of the complainant in this matter has always been around processes and procedures that align in a manner that that allow, motivate, and support women to come forward, no matter how difficult it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Chriscy Blouws, the attorney for the Women's Legal Centre, definitely speaking about the fact that this has been a test for the judiciary, and especially, of course, in regards to the legalities around raising those allegations of sexual assault. We're seeing really the law here at work. As I've mentioned, Arabile, just to go back to how, of course, these 10 grueling days ended, we saw there Advocate Skakana ending his cross-examination by repeating again the mentions that he made earlier about the fact that he, posed to Mengo that the interaction between Mbenenge and Mengo were indeed consensual. She, again, disagreed with this, stating that in no way did Mbenenge believe that this was harassment, but also, again, repeating utterances that she had multiple opportunities to tell the judge president that she was uncomfortable. We did see her get re-examined by her team. Just to clarify some of the things that came to light during the cross-examination, this being the big one, the 2 complaints that were filed by her that were showing those inconsistencies in regards to her statement. Of course, as I mentioned, trying to discredit her as a witness, but really towards the tail end, we also heard some of the, events that took place, including the fact that Mengo was threatened. This is in about January 2022, before even this tribunal sat down, mentioning that she did receive calls and was threatened if she went through with the complaint. And so we are expecting this matter to be heard again. This will be in May, where they will, of course, reconvene, and we'll be hearing a lot more details and where exactly the tribunal plans to take this matter forward. But as you've heard, it has sparked quite a lot of conversation on a national debate in regards to the issues of sexual harassment, consent, and also power dynamic in the workplace.